Well, greetings everybody. I hope you're doing fine and dandy. Welcome to our King's channel. And I'm kind of doing this solo tonight. The way that it looks, last few days I lay on my bed as still as possible asking our King, it's like, are you gonna please show me what you want me bring for Sabbath? And I never got as much as a hint from our King, and it appears that I do want you to know that I know he's going to join us here shortly, and I'll end up saying things that when I edit it will astound my own self, how our King puts things that are already in me, because he led me down this certain path to have all of this up here and also stored in here and every fiber of our DNA, which of course is knowledge from Adam and Eve all the way up through to Noah, and all the way through. All the knowledge of Adam and Eve is locked up in our DNA. So if you were given the true powers that you actually have, but it's like that flaming sword that divided Adam and Eve from the garden, we just don't have the switch turned on, I guess you could say, that comes through salvation. If you make it to salvation, the power that you'll have within you, all that DNA, all the knowledge, they say, that a strand of DNA holds more than thousands of libraries. And we're not just talking words on a page, we're talking everything. When Adam stuck his finger on a thorn for the first time, that he acknowledged pain, whatever it was, is locked up in the DNA. So it's all locked up there right now, and Yahweh's name is on everybody's DNA. There's only one race, the human race, and what I want to discuss is Father, calling no man Father, and then the Apostle Paul had said that he was like a father. But first, I also need to show you where our brother Blue Turtle, greetings Blue Turtle, I love you moms, I love you Blue Turtle's son, Grandma's baby, I love y'all, y'all are in my prayers. And Blue Turtle writes me every Sabbath, for the most part. We'll just put that in there, but there's seldom that he neglects to do so. And he wrote some excellent scripture that I do want to read as soon as I'm done here. But I'm going to show you, that I don't know what I'm doing right now because I had no guidance, it seems, from our King. So I brought up some things to discuss about what Blue Turtle had also asked, concerning Father. And I figure, hey, why not, since there's nothing else to speak about that I know, it's not a knowing in me that I have to bring forth. I'll just start it off and see if our King jumps in here a little later. As it says here in Matthew 18:15, our Messiah is speaking, and up here it's titled, Dealing with a Sinning, and it's got brother. Okay, now please keep in mind what our Messiah is speaking of here are those that he had said when his mother and brothers and sisters and such had come to talk with him, and he looked at his disciples and said, hey, who's my mothers and brothers and sisters and fathers and aunts and uncles and this and that? He said, those who do the will of my Father who art in heaven. Those are my brothers and sisters, and so on and so forth. And those that do the will of our Father live by the give or take 613 commandments. The ones that pertain to you, it's the only way you can keep the 10 commandments. So many out there are not even keeping the fourth of the 10 commandments, the Sabbath. Even if they said Sunday was their Sabbath, well, they're out there buying and selling, they're cooking, they're working, they're doing all sorts of stuff, mowing their lawns and all sorts of offenses they would be stoned to death for if they were in the wilderness, okay? And right now we're coming into a time that's going to be even greater than that wilderness, and those things will be in force again. And I know some people don't want to hear these things, but I'm speaking here to those that are desiring to qualify to become one of my brothers, and I do believe Blue Turtle is there, as well as Timothy P. Shane, there's Melvin McCullough, but there's so very few, that I even call a brother Some I call bro, which is short for brother, And these are those that keep the laws and the commandments. Above all else, when we find out we're doing wrong, we stop doing wrong and we start doing what's right. That's what a brother does. And so here our king is saying, moreover, if your brother sins against you, now please keep in mind, don't be a religious or Christian Canaanite Baal Lord God worshiper using your preacher's glasses to look at what that just said, because what most of those Christian Canaanites are believing is hypocritical, because they say that the laws are done away with, and yet they want to uphold and say, look, if a brother sins against you, well, how can he sin unless there's a law? You have to have a law to break in order to sin. And if you've done away with the law, your brother cannot sin against you. Now, these ones here, those that keep the give or take 613 laws to keep the 10 commandments, these are the ones that say, I do so. I follow our king, okay? I know our king, because it says in 1 Yachanan or John chapter 2, verse 3 through 6, it says that if you say you know him, know our Messiah, if you know him by whatever name you say you know him by, and you do not keep the commandments, well, it says right straight out in that spiritual test that you are a liar and there is no truth in you, no light in you, okay? There should be no trust put in you if you don't keep the commandments. It's the reason the earth is going to be burned and few men left. It says it in Isaiah chapter 24. Please take a look, read it. It's not lies, okay? These are things they don't tell you in church, because you wouldn't want to pay them if they told you the truth as you get here on our King's channel. But it says, moreover, if a brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault. Don't be picking for boogers, okay? I mean, it says sin. If you break one of the commandments, if your brother stole a loaf of bread or a pie off your windowsill, and you know it was him, well, go talk to him, say, hey man, you shouldn't be stealing my dang pie. What's wrong with you? Now you owe me a pie and a slice, man, because you're supposed to pay back it and another fifth part. And here they put people in prison for years and calling these laws so harsh. Oh, them laws are so harsh. Well, if you steal a cow or something and you eat it, you got to pay that cow back and 7 more. And that's where, laws of slavery came in for those that were so poor they stole the cow to begin with. Well, a fellow would pay to the one that had lost the cow and 7 more. And that fella or that gal or whatever would become that man's servant if it was a Hebrew, but a slave if it was someone else that wanted to live among the people. And for 6 years they would work. They would learn how to do a trade. They would increase their master, their ruler, the one who got them out of that debt, that bought them. And at the end of 6 years, they would have a trade. And the ruler, because of the increase that man made for him, could buy him a piece of land with a house on it or whatever. Or if he was a herder of sheep, buy him a tent, give him the sheep, whatever he needs, so he don't ever have to go steal a cow again. And then there's other laws says that, if he doesn't want to leave his ruler's household, he can go to the ruler and have him run his ear through with an awl into the doorpost and be his servant forever, and he didn't have to call him servant. He could actually call him brother now. And that was probably why the guy didn't want to leave his house to begin with, because the man acted like a father to him, got him out of trouble, paid his way for him so he didn't have to go to prison or anything, showing him a trade. And at the end says, my son, you can take off now if you want, and he's got the opportunity to come back. But anyway, it says, moreover, if your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he hears you, you have gained your brother. But if he will not hear, take, with one or two or more witnesses, and by the mouth of them, a matter will be established and all that. And it says, and if he refuses to hear him, present him to the congregation, say, hey, look, this guy thinks this, even though we've showed him the sound counsel of the body of Messiah in these last days, and they don't want to listen. Or maybe we won't kick him out. But like it says here, but if he refuses even to hear the body, the 144,000 in the last days, when the time comes, it's not right now, believe you me, it's not now. We haven't been gathered, but there's certain powers that we're going to have that people can't even comprehend, and I'm not even going to talk about much of them. But anyway, in that time, if somebody, where there's this gathering of brothers, because I'll tell you, if you're truly of the true faith, you don't have any real brothers out there except maybe somebody that you're keeping in contact through emails or telephone because, they may be hundreds or thousands of miles away from you. And that's for a purpose, because if you were close to a brother or sister, and you are actually doing the things that bring life so that you can acquire that free gift of salvation, you just got to qualify to have it, that's all. This is what's going on here. If someone's teaching against that, and he refuses even to hear the congregation, let him be to you like a heathen and a tax collector. They weren't smiled upon, my friends, okay? They weren't invited over to do the reindeer games or anything, even within the true brotherhood. The Yahdaim, the brothers that a lot of times are mistranslated as Jews. Jews has nothing to do with brother, and you can see different contexts where Jew has been translated and mistranslated, and it speaks of those that are of the faith as well as those that are against the faith. If they would have put where the true believers were true believers instead of Jews, scripture would make a whole lot more sense. Anyway, treat them like a heathen or a tax collector. And then listen to the power that you have right now where you're sitting. If you're a true believer, understand the power our King is about to show you that you possess. And why the true brothers are so far away. Okay? True sisters, whatever, are so far away. It says, assuredly I say to you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Now he's speaking to his disciples and those that truly believe. He's speaking to the brothers. He's not speaking to the Pharisees and the priests and, the scribes and made them all Sadducee. He wasn't speaking to those. He's speaking to the brothers who do the will of the Father, who keep the commandments and the laws. He's saying that that you have the power to bind things on earth as they're bound in heaven. But in order to get to that, to do that, you have to understand what is in heaven for you to bind on earth. Okay? It's not like all of a sudden you can say, okay, well, I declare the pork is clean. It don't work that way. You're not going to bind anything that's sinful on this earth. But when you seen Moshe and he was talking about Korah and those that was to be swallowed up, and he simply described how it was going to take place, and as soon as he finished those words, they got swallowed up. And then Yahweh kind of toasted the dudes, that thought they was pretty spiffy bringing forth offerings of incense there. But anyway, our King says here, Matthew 18:18, assuredly I say to you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Okay, but here in Matthew 18 verse 19, it says, again I say to you that if two of who? You, hopefully you are one of them, okay? Hopefully you're a true brother or a sister. Hopefully you truly believe that you must do works as Father Abraham did works. Here in Genesis 26 verse 5, because Abraham obeyed my voice. To obey, you have to work, and kept my charge. Well, in order to keep something, you gotta work. Kept my commandments. Oh, he did works? And my statutes? Oh, Father Abraham did works. And my laws? Abraham did these things. Abraham obeyed our father's laws before Moshe had them written down. And all men could do exactly as Moshe was saying that they needed to do to get salvation. Our king said, hey, if you're of Father Abraham, if you're Father Abraham's descendants, you will do the works of Father Abraham. Our king said that, believe it or not. He really said that. And our king is saying here, and again, I say to you that if two of you agree on earth concerning anything that they ask, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. But see, you can't get it done unless you're in our Messiah. Now, how can you get into Messiah? How can you allow Messiah to get into you? I guess we should say. It says right here in 18:20, it says, for where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name. Okay, now if you believe that Yahshua or Yeshua or Yehoshua or variations like that, and not any Lord or God or Jesus, okay? Any of those are L's, forget the L's. The L's will be cast down. All the Baalim are going to be destroyed. Wherever we're gathered together, we're going to destroy all of that which is Baalim. And then when the nations come flowing to us, they're going to have to get rid of Baalim as well in their lives, or they're going to see what takes place when things come to pass with those who are brothers and gathered together. And right now you are gathered together with me. So therefore, if you can understand the words I'm saying, you know that our King is in our presence. It's true. He says, for where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, I am there in the midst of them. Now see, the thing is, wherever someone is watching this, even if you don't believe in Yahshua or Yeshua or Yehoshua, and you want to call on the Jesus, well, know that my King is with me, so he's also there with you. And if you can't hear my words, it's not your fault right now. Our King hasn't allowed you to hear the things that I'm bringing forth. But if you can hear, then may this Sabbath be a great blessing. And if it's not the Sabbath, hopefully it'll be another day of the week that will be just a blessing as well. You know, demons are actually fleeing when they hear my voice. When you're playing these videos, they detest me. And here's what Blue Turtle had written to me for this Sabbath that I'd like to read before we hopefully can run through the Father thing pretty quickly. It says, the best, here in Micah 7:4 says, the best of them is like a briar. The most upright is sharper than a thorn hedge. The day of your watchman and your punishment comes, now shall be their perplexity. See, he's saying that now shall be their perplexity. He's not saying that it's already taken place. No, this is for a time that's coming. And you'll see even our King quoted part of this in some of the lessons that he was bringing forth, explaining what these last days were going to be like as well. So right now isn't that time. In verse 5 it says, do not trust in a friend. Do not put your confidence in a companion. And please, you know, I've seen people take this to such an extent that, you know, you say, hi, so-and-so, how are you doing today? Well, I'm not going to tell you. Okay, any reason why? Well, yeah, man, I'm not putting no confidence in you. Well, I'm just asking how you are. Well, you know, the thing is, if I told you how I am, I'm putting my confidence in you. And if I'm going to follow Yahweh, I'm not going to put my confidence in you. So ask all you want on how I am. I ain't going to tell you. They carry these things to such an extent that they shut everybody off. And it's not at all what it's saying. I mean, if you take a look at it and saying, you know, that you don't need to be out there telling people, oh no, I got the vax, or oh no, I didn't get the vax, and blah, blah, blah. That's putting your confidence in your companion because we're all on this journey. And it says, don't trust in a friend. Well, a friend is not a brother. A brother keeps the laws. There's a difference. He's saying, don't put your trust in one that's not keeping the laws and commandments. Don't put your confidence in someone you may work with on the job, thinking as though they were a real and true brother or sister. Your companion may be one who's eating pork chops, okay? So don't put your confidence, don't cast your pearls before the swine or the dogs, because they may turn and trample you. They might rend you like a rag, okay? That's what it's telling you here. And I've seen where people carry it off in so many other directions. It's just mind-boggling how people can read these things and not see, that these are not brothers. And it says here to guard the doors of your mouth from her who lies in your bosom. Because I'll tell you what, I said some things to the one I was married to, just a little of stuff, and it turned into these mountains, and they never went away. Every time something came up, well, you remember when? Oh dear, come on, Yahshua said he forgives me. I'm asking that you forgive me. Can you forgive me? And let's just move on as to how I had let the dog lick the food off the plate. I'm sorry. I never did it again, And then, of course, it takes it up a little notch for those of you, which our king had pointed out, when you start following our Messiah, he comes to you, but not in peace, okay? But with a sword. And he says, divide. And this is where, Micah says it, and where our king was basically quoting Micah. It says, for son dishonors father, daughter rises against her mother, daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and a man's enemies are the men of his own household. It doesn't say brother of his own household, because we're so far and in between. Even the children of the earth, you're not going to find entire congregations of them. We don't congregate because our king has got us held separately to see if you're going to stand strong enough on his word on your own, okay, without anyone else to help you, with your daughter-in-law coming against you because you don't want to go to Halloween with her. And mom and dad are pissed because you're not sending them Christmas gifts, These are the enemies of a man's own household. You can live in peace with a brother because you're keeping the laws and commandments. You got no choice but to live in peace if you're keeping the laws and commandments. And here Micah 7:7, he furthers and says, therefore I will look to the Father, and I'll wait for Yahshua, the Messiah of my salvation. My Father will hear me. See, Micah knew something over here, just like it said in Matthew 18:20, for where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, I am there in the midst of them. You've gathered here to get some information from the scriptures that you're not going to get out there in the churches. That's why you're here. At least I hope so. And so that's what our brother Blue Turtle, my brother Blue Turtle, sent to me for a Sabbath blessing. I hope y'all have been blessed by it. Blue Turtle also a while back, I hope you don't mind me spilling the beans, my brother, but he had asked, what my thoughts were on when Paul had brought up, that he was their father, and our Messiah says not to call anyone your father. So hopefully we can run through this a little bit quick. And I do believe you'll find it interesting if you love the scriptures and if you love the truth. In fact, you may find out that Paul is the Antipas. And I'll show you how it ties in. So please, maybe this is the reason why there's so many people that find so much fault with Paul, even though Kepha didn't. And he said his writings are hard for people to understand. And then many years later, after Paul already went to Rome in chains because he was going to testify in front of the Chief Cheese there about Yahshua, our king, because he had murdered people in the past, and he knew he had to bring forth the truth all the way to the very top, which he did. And many years after his death, after he was put to death, after he testified about Yahshua, there's this old fella there, named Yochanan, some call him John, and he's on the Isle of Patmos. And Yahshua, our Messiah, sent a Malach to him to write that book of Revelation. And there are some that like to use Revelation to speak evil about Paul, but yet, years after Paul was already dead, I guess you could say buried, he didn't go to heaven, he's still buried wherever he is, waiting for our king to come to raise him up. And what I believe is going to be told him is that he did well. Welcome to our Father's kingdom. And I'm sure Yahshua will give him the biggest hug, because he can forgive all those who put himself to death. He can forgive them, and he tells us to forgive too. Well, there we go again. It's now 1:16 in the morning. I got me my cheese sandwich going. I don't know if you can see this or not, but I've got me some nice weenies and pinto beans that I got all spiced up with some onions and jalapeno peppers and just some wonderful stuff for Sabbath. But this video I thought was going to take just a short while. And here it shows it's 2 hours, 11 minutes, and 45 seconds long. So I do believe this is going to be cut down into several segments. I'm going to try to keep them short as possible. But I do encourage y'all, if you're truly seeking truth, you should watch each and every one of the videos in the series, because there are some places where our king has me jumping back and forth. Yeah, he did take over. I thought this video I'd be able to get done in 15 minutes. Over 2 hours. Our king led me through some great stuff. I can't wait to get to editing it. And I'll edit it every here and there, because I know when I put out too many videos, the views go down. I don't want to bore people or anything. But I do want to eat. So with that, I love y'all. Don't forget, watch it in order. And what our king's going to bring out is going to set your faith on fire, okay? I do love y'all. Thanks for stopping by. Bye.